All right, Shalom. First and foremost, I would like to give all praise and glory unto Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahawashai, Bahashem, Makakwadash, and double honors unto the apostles and the elders of GMS who rule well, teach well, being great examples towards younger brothers, and peace and blessing and salutations to the hopeful elect out there pushing his word and truth and in sincerity across the four winds in the name of Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahawashai, Bahashem, Makakwadash, pushing to get up out of here. Shalom to the hopeful elect, the believers, the listeners who have came back to the obedience of the scriptures through faith in Yahweh Bashem Al-Shai. Alright, and what I want to get into, this morning, is dealing with being tapped in, being tapped in with Yahweh Shai, which we know what the scriptures say. Matter of fact, nothing explained it like a precept. So let's go here to the book of Psalms, chapter 40, and verse 7. Then said I, lo, I come in the volume of the book, it is written to me. Okay? With this Yahweh Shai, he's the volume of the book. So when we tap in, to the spirit of this book, we're tapping into Yahweh Shai. And this book is making us more like Yahweh Shai, man. And this book is full of wisdom, man. There's so much wisdom. There's so many, even when you read accounts or the history, okay, there's wisdom in it, man. It puts us, it gives us perspectives. It gives us righteous perspectives, to read about the accounts of our forefathers, even a few of our foremothers, how they behaved, how they maneuvered, how they was in the clutch, okay, their faith, their being unmovable, okay. You read in Proverbs all that practical wisdom, Ecclesiastes is like, the diary of a wise king. You get these perspectives and so forth and so on, man. It's full of, the book of Sirach, and, this book is just full of wisdom, man. And then you have the prophecies, man. The prophecies that explain, all right, what's happening in real time and what these things are going to lead into, man. All this in the volume of the book, So as we tap in, man, hey, this is a treasure house, And the Bible is a treasure house, man. It's full of, goodly things. Okay? So as we get closer and closer, man, because when we came into the truth, the seed of Yahweh Shai was planted in us, man. Okay? And we should want to water and cultivate that seed, man. As we read and live this thing, man. As we, study and are occupied, in the scriptures. Okay? And we begin to apply these things to our day-to-day, really live these things, man. We're cultivating that seed of Yahweh Shai that was planted in us, man. Yahweh Shai was planted in us to grow, okay, not to be stagnant, because anything that's stagnant, it dies off, okay. So let's go here. Let's go to the book of Mark, chapter 4. Right, this is Mark chapter 4, verses 23. And I'll read this in the NLT. It says, anyone with ears to hear should listen and understand. And everyone doesn't have those ears to hear. But there's a remnant that have those ears to hear, to understand. To listen to videos and be able to comprehend in the spirit, to read, and get revelations and, okay, toil in this thing. You see, that's Yahweh Shai supping with their remnant. Okay, those that have ears to hear. And it says, then he added, pay close attention to what you hear. This Yahweh Shai speaking. The closer you listen, the more understanding will be given, and you will receive even more. Being tapped in. Being around, the spirit of Yahweh Shai, man, which is in the volume of the book. Even within fellowship and, man, conversations and things that are being had, man, just listening. I like to, just listen to brothers speak in the fellowship, man, and just get all those different perspectives, man, and absorb them different, perspectives, okay, of wisdom, man. So the more, you say, the closer you listen, you see, and to listen, that means we're in a position of learning because we're forever learning. You know, we don't reach a pinnacle in this truth, man. Okay, we're forever increasing. Okay, we're forever a student. You see, so it said the closer you listen, the more understanding you will be given. You know, so hey, we begin to get out what we put in. Okay, and you will receive even the more. Okay, it says the measure, and then go into a footnote from Mark 4:24 in the NLT. It says, or the measure you give will be the measure you get back, man. Okay, so the measure we give into the truth, man, the time, the sacrifice that we put into this thing, man, hey, the truth gives it back. You know, it's one thing about it, you know, and that's with anything, man. Okay, anything that you do, what you put into it, it gives that back. Okay, so the truth is no different as we put into this truth, you know, it gives back. You know, as we put in, it gives back, man. You know, they increase, you see, and just like, you know, like I say, working out, as you put in and you start to see the gains, well, that motivates you to keep putting more in. You know, the growth is the motivation to put more in. You see, and there's nothing like growing in YAHAWASHI that motivates us to keep putting more in. You see, Mark 4:25 said, to those who listen to my teaching, more understanding will be given. But for those who are not listening, even what little understanding they have will be taken away. You know, so as you have a remnant that has awakened to the truth, you know, and brothers are tapped in, man. You know, just constantly seeing brothers evolve and grow in this thing, man. You know, learn, you see brothers becoming leaders. You see brothers becoming priests, man. Okay. You see brothers, becoming serious minded, man. Brothers becoming, sharp in the spirit. You know. So there's a remnant, okay, that the Lord put the spirit on to listen to the teachings, man. Okay, and obey and apply. You see? And understanding just constantly increasing amongst the body, man, because everyone is benefiting the nation of believers. All right, the remnant is like a nation within themselves, but the nation is benefiting, okay, of men being tapped in through the Spirit, and it's all through the Spirit, YAHAWASHI. There's nothing of ourselves, because the Scriptures let us know that the wisdom, okay, is the breath of the Most High, and she's a pure influence from the Almighty. You know, so this drive to tap in comes from YAHAWASHI. You know, and we have to always look at this thing as a privilege and not a burden, man. You know, a privilege to be here. Because when something that, when we look at something as a privilege, we begin to show appreciation. You know, so what a privilege it is to be here, man. Okay? Now it says, let's go from there. All right. Let's see, I got a couple more. I think that's in Proverbs. Let's get a couple out of Proverbs. All right, Proverbs 10:4 says, he becometh poor that dealeth with a slack hand. You know, and and we're speaking of becoming poor in the spirit, because the scriptures go into a lot of analogies dealing with agriculture, because our culture is an agrarian society. When the agriculture was the economy, you measure wealth, by agriculture assets. Okay? So it says he becoming poor that dealer with a slack hand, so if you have this land, you have acres, but you're not planting, okay? You're not tilling, you're not cultivating the land, okay? You're not, doing the husbandry work, removing the weeds, and pruning and purging, certain trees, okay? It's a labor, you see? It's a very tedious, you're going to a farmer, man, it's a very tedious job, man. It's an ongoing, ongoing process, man. To maintain and keep things, afloat. Well, the same way in the spirit, man. You know, we can't deal with slack hands, and we can become poor in the spirit. You know, I know some, moments I had been with slack hands, you know, and camp tell it, man. You know, for me, man, camp tell it. There was certain camps, I'm at camp dry as hell, man. Okay, poor as hell, man. Spiritual count on nothing, man. Don't have no precepts, no points, cause I not tapped in. It don't take long to show, man. You mess around, mess off a week, and you come to camp, just jump out there. We speaking personally, man. From my personal experience, man. Go to camp dry as hell. Nothing to add to nothing, man. You spiritually bankrupt, you know. But that come from dealing with slack hand, The Lord gives us, each day to do something, man. And it's not about, the intensity. You don't have to go in, into these, these hours. you know, research for hours and hours and read for hours and. But consistency, man. Doing something every day, man, goes a long way. You know, doing something every day goes a long way. And there's still an increase. Even if we increase a smidge a day, man, that's increase, man. And after a while, it adds up, man. Okay? It says he becoming poor that dealer with slack hand. But the hand of the diligent make rich, man, and we're becoming rich in understanding, rich in faith. Because these things improve our confidence, man, and our power. The more we understand our power, the more confident we are. The more this book makes sense to us, man. It's a faith booster. Understanding is a faith booster, man. Understanding it is a faith booster. Understanding is sincerity, man. Because we're not getting this understanding, to go show off what we know. No. That's why we're not here to debate. Debate is just people showing off what they know. All right, who can rattle off the most information and make it sound cute. No, we're not here for that, man. We're here to sincerely learn about our power so we can grow in our power and teach, all right, YAHAWASHI to the believers, man. For the forwarding of the whole body, man. Okay? So when we increase in understanding for that purpose, man, it's a faith booster, man. And every brother got their own lot, their own portion, okay? And it's just about us magnifying our lot, our office, man. Like Apostle Paul said, he magnified his office, man. He had the office of the Israelite foreigners, okay, which caused him to do a lot of traveling, to be in the mix. He had to do a lot of labor, The Spirit had him overseeing the churches, man, but that was his lot. He excelled in his lot, man, So this thing is about each brother excelling in their lot, and brothers have different lots, man. You see? And it says, the scripture says, to whom much is given, much is required. Okay? So the more the Lord has, given us, the talents he's given us, the more he requires, man. He want a return on whatever he gave us, man. Okay? And that's why, hey, we tap in. We want the Lord to come back with that return, man. Or what they call in business, or ROI, return on investments. Yeah, I believe that's the term. ROI, return on investments. Okay, let's see if it give us something. Look that up. What? All right, what is a ROI? All right, in business, it says ROI. It says return on investment is a key financial metric measuring the profitability of an investment relative to its cost, expressed as a percentage or ratio. All right, it's calculated as net profit. All right, based on cost of investment times 100, helping business evaluate the efficiency and expenditures like marketing campaigns, equipment purchases, new projects, etc., etc. Okay, it says companies use ROI to evaluate the effectiveness of marketing campaigns, assess, all right, assess the value of new software, so forth and so on. You know, But when you go into business or ROI, when you spend money on something, okay, how can this investment, okay, make a return? Okay, what is my return from this new asset I've acquired? You know, and if you're not making a return on it, then that asset is now deemed a liability. You know, it has so long, you know, that it cannot make a return to where, okay, this is a liability. Okay, so we want to have a spiritual, all right, return of investment. Well, Yahawashi put into us, well, he wants to come back to a return. You know, that's why he went into the parable of the talents. You know, he expected a return. Yahawashi came with an expectation of a return. You know, that's why you had the Jacob say, look, your 10 talents have made 10 more talents. Your 5 talents have made 5 more talents. That's a return. Okay, so what he initially gives us, you know, our gifts that he gives us in the spirit, where he expects those gifts to be, he expects to come back to a return based on what he's giving us, man. You know, if that makes sense. But yeah, man, we in the season now, you know, more than ever to be tapped into this, man. You know, and this the only thing that makes sense. The Bible is the only thing that makes sense. You see, the Bible is the only thing that makes sense on the earth, man. Everything else is devaluing, man. Okay, but the Bible and the understanding of the Bible, you know, is becoming the most valuable thing. Okay, in the earth, man. You see, that's why you see everybody trying to tap in and throw a precept. You know, everybody trying to throw a precept in the mix now. Okay, but those that truly understand, man, that value gonna constantly increase, man. This is the most valuable thing, you know, that we can possess is this truth. You know, that goodly pearl. Okay, this Sirach 39:1 it says, "But he that giveth his mind to the law of the Most High, and is occupied in the meditation thereof, will seek out the wisdom of all the ancient and be occupied in prophecies, man. You know, be occupied in prophecies. Okay, so we're in the time now to tap in. You know, we know the spirit of Yahawashi is what the spirit of prophecy. So when we go into prophecy, we're tapping into Yahawashi. You know, we're feeding Yahawashi that's within us, man. Okay, and it's growing into something. You know, it's gonna be precious in the times to come, and even in the world to come, the next age to come, man. Okay, it's a constantly appreciating, you know, asset. You know, it's constantly gaining value. Okay, so that's the point. Just want to get into that. Lord will, you brothers. All right, and you sisters edified once again. Want to give all praise and glory unto Yahweh Bahashem, Yahweh Shai Bahashem, and Kakwadash, and double honors unto the apostles and the elders of GMS who rule well, teach well, being great examples to us younger brothers. Peace and blessings, salutations, hopefully, Shalom.